to this week's episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Grab a seat at the table as Masters rowing coaches Marlene Royal and Rebecca Caro share their biggest secrets on how to unleash your hidden potential and plot a new course for real results on the water and off. Now, on to the show.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caro and I'm here with Marlene Royal.
Hello, Rebecca, and hello to our Faster Masters audience.
So we conclude our head racing series today. We're going to be talking about post-race debriefs and what you need to do to learn from your experience and improve the next time. But before we kick off, I'm handing over to Marlene.
Yes, I'd like to say hello to all our Faster Masters rowing clients and athletes that I've had the joy and ability to work with for the last 4 years. And I guess I would like to tell our Faster Masters that I've made a decision to retire from the Faster Masters rowing business. And I will still be continuing to do my coaching on the water and to work with my private clients through Royal Row programs. And it's just a time in life to scale back a little bit and, spend some time on some other areas of life. And I think that Faster Masters has done an incredible job advocating for Masters rowing. And I certainly will continue to be a great supporter and certainly continue my quest along with our other Faster Masters friends who advocate for Masters rowing and continually working, I think, all of us together to make Masters rowing stronger and stronger in North America as well as around the world. So I'd just like to say thank you to everyone. And I hope that I will see many people still in my rowing career. And again, thank you very much. I think it's been an incredible experience. And I think we've done a ton to advance Masters rowing internationally. So thank you everyone very much. And to Rebecca as well.
Oh, Marlene, it's been hard to hear those words speaking for myself. And I have got Marlene to promise everybody that she'll come back on the podcast. So
absolutely.
It's adieu, not farewell. Now, on to the final part of our head racing series. We've all done our big races, and part of what we need to now do is to learn from them, to improve, to work out what we could do better or differently another time. So, Marlene, kick us off. Let's go through the race review. What happened in the race?
Well, I think as you go back and look at your race, we certainly encourage athletes to, look beyond just what happened on the race course. Look what went on the whole 24 hours before your race and until your race was concluded. And I think you want to look at what are the things that you felt you did really well to prepare. So we need to give ourselves credit as well as figuring out what we might need to do better. But look at what you did well. And that might be you got enough. It might be not just rowing related or technique related, but it might be your nutrition was really good. You slept well. You organized your clothing really well for whatever the weather conditions was. You had good organization with where you were staying. All these types of things can be distractions to actually getting to the starting line. And then look at, how prepared were you getting from your accommodations to the starting line? And then look at what happened on the course. How did you go through your warm up? What was your steering? There are lots and lots of elements of the race, and look at, what are 10 things that you did really well, and then start to look at, well, what are things that could have been better? But I think it's really important to give yourself credit for things that went well so that you remember what those things were so that you repeat that when you go to another competition.
Yeah. And in terms of what could be improved, One thing that might help you, if you're fortunate enough to go to a race that had some video, whether it was friends and family videoing you, whether it was a live stream of the actual event, is go and review as much video and as many photographs as possible as you can find of your crew and your race. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the head of the Charles because a lot of people did it, but the principles, of course, apply to any head race. How did you take every corner? How did your pushes go? Could you have steered tighter? What were the things that made you mildly anxious or frightened? You know, big bridges can be quite scary, you know, to row through. So we had, I'm speaking from my own experience, an overtaking situation where the other crew wasn't yielding and giving enough space to our crew. So our blades came really close together, and it was on my side of the boat, so on the bow side, starboard side of the boat. And I was very conscious of other people who were sitting in front of me, so I could see them, turning their heads to look at the other crew. And that upset our rhythm and upset our balance a little. Now, you know, little things like that are things that you can definitely improve. You know, was that appropriate? Could we have done something differently? How do we keep the rhythm and balance going when people are looking at this other crew, you know, trying to watch their blade tips? Someone yelled who wasn't the coxswain. You know, was that a good thing or a bad thing? Did it help the outcome? And this was a very, very minor occurrence, but of course, you know, good race results come from lots of small gains. So a minor improvement in this one situation could make a small gain for your next race.
Yeah, and you know, I think also looking at, you know, what type of course you were rowing on compared to where you train. And certainly for an event like the Head of the Charles last weekend, where there is a lot of activity, there are a lot of people, there is a lot of noise around the course. And that can be very, very surprising for someone who trains in like a single sculler who trains in a really quiet area or rural area. And then you come into just a place that has a tremendous amount of activity. And, you know, learning how to handle all of that certainly takes a little bit of practice, I think.
Certainly does. So in this head racing series, we've got a free ebook where the URL is on the screen now, and I'll put it into the show notes. So if you want 8 separate articles all about different aspects of head racing, which might help you in your own race preparation now and into the future, please go to this website and download the free ebook. It will sign you onto our newsletter list. You can, of course, unsubscribe at any time if what you get each week from us doesn't help and support your own rowing. So what to do about the things that you identify? So positive things, Marlene's already said, you just reinforce them, keep doing the good things well. Generally speaking, when something not so good has happened, the things I think you should be asking yourself start with, could I have anticipated this? You know, is this something that I kind of saw it coming up? I knew there was a bend to steer. I knew that it was raining. My handle was going to get wet. I knew that I was starting behind a crew that I knew we were faster than, or that were faster than us. So I knew we were going to get overtaken. So firstly, what are things you actually knew about and that you could have anticipated what you would do to change it, you know, in different circumstances if it happens again? And then secondly, what were the unexpected things that you couldn't have anticipated, because that's racing. Things happen and you can't control what another crew does. You can only control what you do. And in those situations, you need to be able to have a response that you've thought about. So if this happens, for example, if I have to stop rowing because someone clashes blades with us, what am I going to do about it? And the answer is probably, as soon as I'm clear, I need to get going as quickly as possible and get back up to race pace. How am I going to do that? So these are the sorts of things that you can use as responses. Think of them as tricks that you have in your bag that you can pull out when you need them.
Well, and as you said, like doing the things that you did well, write them down, you know, and the things that you need to improve, write them down, because as much as it's in your mind in the moment, you will forget if you don't write things down. And there could be, you know, try to think of all kinds of scenarios. What if somebody takes your oars? That happened to one of my scullers last year. He first time at the head of the Charles, and he comes to take his boat, and somebody had taken his oars. So he had to take somebody else's oars, you know, and okay, what do you do in such a situation? Well, make sure you've got a tape measure if you've got to check your inboard, or you've got to do something, you know, I mean, but these are things that, as Rebecca said, you cannot anticipate everything. I think going into an event well rested is really going to help your concentration, so that in the race situation, you can have better focus, and you're going to make better decisions if you're well rested, and you're going to have better mental toughness if you're well rested, or just being able to handle, you know, another degree of stress. You know, if you're well rested, all of that is going to go better. So, you know, those are things that are going to help you problem solve, but look at your different race events and think like, okay, well, you know, what if this happens, I'm going to do this. If I clash oars and stop, this is how I'm going to get back up to speed. This is what I'm going to do. And, you know, the more you can have a little bit of an idea of a game plan, you know, the more it will help you. But, you know, it's racing, and, you know, focus is key. So the more you can do to be focused is going to help you handle whatever, you know, the universe might throw at you.
The other thing you can do is talk to other people. How did their race go? What happened that was unexpected? What do they do as a result? You know, could they have anticipated this? Because the more you hear about different variations of scenarios, the better equipped you are for your own decision making in the actual race itself. So listen carefully to how people describe things. You know, you might want to take a pen and line it up and go, my boat was here, and this guy was here, and then this happened, and then that happened. And there's quite a detailed analysis on the Row 2K website, where they have a photo of a crash of the week, which was two crews that look like they're coming straight into each other. And in the discussion below, someone explains in careful detail how it came about. And the answer was it was partly precipitated by someone returning back to their boathouse at the Cambridge dock, cutting across in front of the race. Then there was one very fast crew coming up on two crews who were already overtaking each other. So, you know, again, lining up some pens on a table and a little line where the bridge is, and try and understand what happened as a result. And the crew ended up diagonally across the river, because once their blades overlapped, bow's blade went underneath the bow of the other boat, and then that boat just skewed right around. Like, that's reasonably extreme. I sincerely hope it never happens to you, but it did happen in this situation. So look at it and study it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think actually on the live stream, I did happen to see that happen, and it was like, whoa, what just happened? Like, wow, all of a sudden, like, people were turning, and it was very, you know, it was one of those moments. And of course, there was no playback because it was a live stream. But and also talking to people about the course, like maybe there's a tree branch that is sticking out farther than it normally does, or there's a patch of weeds, or, you know, things like this, like that may not normally be there, but say given there was rain, maybe there was debris in the river, maybe, you know, there could be all these different snags or scenarios that you know, being aware of. And, you know, the more experienced you are as a racer, the more it helps you handle these unexpected situations.
Mentally, if you do have, you know, a really bad stroke for whatever reason, one of the things you can definitely practice is to put that stroke behind you and not think about it again. Because if you're worrying about that was hideous, that was terrible, you know, and mentally sort of doing yourself down, the less good you are at focusing at the strokes that are coming up. So if you know that's something that you personally struggle with, do try and work on training yourself to stop thinking about a stroke that was bad and instead focus on making the next stroke good. And there's something about our mentality when you couch something in negative terms, don't do this, you have a less good outcome then reframing it in the positive, do this.
And this is also where racing experience can really be beneficial, because I think as you become a better competitor, you learn how to recover from those bad strokes better. Or as you become more experienced, you might say, okay, you've started your race and maybe things just aren't going well, or you're not getting into the rhythm, and you've figured out, okay, this is what I need to do to refocus and then bring myself back into the boat. And so I think that's why trials become so important, and having enough practice time and race experience help you handle these situations, because it's not always perfect, but it also doesn't mean if something doesn't go well, you have to just throw it out the window. You can, if you have some strategies, okay, I know that I do 10 strokes to focus on this, and this will get my head back in the boat. And, there's still the rest of the race to row. So
yeah, don't do yourself down so much that you can't focus on the outcome of the rest of the race.
Exactly.
If you're part of the Rowing Chat Podcast Network, please tell your rowing friends about the show. And if you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.